We're getting ready for your fantasy drafts in 2025. Matt Williamson's wide receiver rankings today. Some big names at the top, but where you should be targeting your wide receivers on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks everybody for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Appreciate all the everydayers out there hanging with us. Our core audience wouldn't be here without you. And if you are new to the program, welcome. Consider please subscribing. Hit that subscribe button on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. And today's episode of P&W is brought to you by FanDuel. All you got to do, sign up, FanDuel.com, or download the app. Season's right around the corner, so visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now. All right, take it away, Matt. Let's get into this. We're talking fantasy wide receivers. Cut down day is looming. It's happening in a few hours, so tomorrow's episode will be able to encompass everything, and no doubt there's going to be more moves happening and some trades, I think, still looming around the NFL and some moves to get to. But let's talk wide receivers. Are you drafting Jamar Chase 1.1 even potentially in your fantasy football leagues?
I would strongly consider it. I mean, I kind of believe in the fantasy world that in the first round, you can't win your league, but you could lose it. So there is a strong case for taking these receivers over, say, a McCaffrey or a Gentee that has more risk to them. You know, Henry, if he falls off a cliff or doesn't catch passes. That being said, anyone that pays attention to football or this podcast knows that we're in a golden age of wide receivers in the NFL. I mean, there's so many good to great to incredible ones with Chase and Jefferson at the top of the list that I am absolutely my number one strategy for fantasy this year is I am attacking the 5th, 6th, 7th, even 8th round wide receivers heavily. And that's going to allow me to be pretty strong at running back. You know, maybe my first 2 picks are running back, or even sneak a Brock Bowers or a Lamar Jackson onto my roster and, you know, be atop of the onesie positions. Now, I wouldn't qualm with anyone taking CeeDee Lamb or Chase, as you mentioned, or one of these great receivers early and then waiting for your 2nd, 3rd receiver to that 5th, 6th, 7th round neighborhood. But I would not attack the 2nd through 4th rounds all that much. I mean, I some of those players are going to hit. Like Tyreek Hill's a perfect example. He could lead the league in fantasy points at the wide receiver position, but I'm staying away. You know, I mean, I'm not paying that price. I'm going another direction, and I'm trying to rank them accordingly. So that's my take on that. And obviously, PPR is a little stronger. I rank these as if they were half PPR. Or if you have to start 3 receivers, that's different than 2 in a flex, you know, of course.
In a lot of leagues now, you can have 3 wide receivers in a flex, and there's so many wide receivers, and you can really just go heavy at wide receiver early. But it sounds like if it's a little bit more standard, say 2 wide receivers in a flex, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of how I look at it.
PPR, you might be a little bit old school, I think, Williamson, right? Because back in the day, it was always running back. You go running back, you wait on quarterbacks, and then you target your wide receivers. And so that wide receiver, almost wide receiver 2, more wide receiver 3 for fantasy purposes is what you really like. So you might not have the Chases and Jeffersons, and especially not the next tier of wide receivers on your fantasy rosters.
Like a perfect example, and you know, we'll try to tier these guys because wide receiver is the longest show. Obviously, you can go 60 deep of dudes that are, you know, like Calvin Ridley. You can get Calvin Ridley all day long in the 6th round of your fantasy draft. They're going to be losing like crazy. He's clearly their best target. I still think he's a very good player. The reports are, wow, he looks incredible. Last year, he would have scored way more points with slightly below average quarterback play, let alone like the worst quarterback play in the league.
Yeah.
So give me him all day long, or Chris Olave, guys like that, that if I'm loaded everywhere else, I have no problem starting those guys week after week after week. And you can get them at a really nice price.
Okay, so more on some of those names and all the names in that tier. I want to hear more about that tier of wide receiver from you, Matt. Let's start at the top, though. Tier number 1, where's the break? Is it just a two-man show at the top?
No. Actually, I was going to run this by you. Chase is number 1. I mean, they throw so much. We talked about Burrow yesterday. I think that that's not even that debatable. Jefferson versus Lamb. If you had to pick, who are you taking there? Because to me, I go back and forth. And Jefferson to me is just a little bit more stable year to year. So I gave him the nod, but I don't think you go too wrong with either.
I think it's actually pretty easily Jefferson for me. Stability. He's just a better player. And he's got less competitions for targets in his offense. Now, the Cowboys might throw more, but it's actually kind of flipped with the suspension for Addison and then bringing in Pickens on the other side. So that really skews it towards Justin Jefferson for me, especially early in the season.
Yeah, I mean, the Dak versus McCarthy thing is the Lamb argument, and maybe they'll throw more.
Yeah.
But still, it doesn't matter who Jefferson's quarterbacks have been. He still averages more yards per game than any player in NFL history.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we wouldn't have made the same arguments. Like, oh, well, Sam Darnold, what's that going to look like? And he's, a borderline MVP candidate for some part of the year, So, and JJ McCarthy's not a rookie. So, mental reps hopefully has been something for him that will help him. And he's looked good in both preseasons before getting hurt last year and then now this year too. So
I have pretty high hopes for McCarthy in general. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, who hasn't been awesome in that offense?
Exactly.
With one of the
lines better. Yep. I agree.
So yeah, I do like Justin Jefferson this year in fantasy.
So I mentioned yesterday in my main league, I'm picking 11th, and therefore I picked 14th on the snake. I'm going to end up with one of these guys likely, unless I go with running back, which I probably would prefer. Nico, Neighbors, Amon-Ra, Puka. I think all those guys are really, really good. But I started with Puka at the top of that group, and I moved him to the bottom because of Stafford's back.
And some competition for targets with would you be shocked at all if Puka's second on the team in targets and receptions?
That wouldn't shock me, but McVay's history for the fantasy world is so great at target share going to his top 2 receivers. Like the tight ends don't catch passes, the running backs don't catch passes. I mean, the ball goes to 2 guys in that offense. So they both should have huge pieces of the pie. I just hope Stafford's injury doesn't shrink the pie.
No, McVay's acting like he wants to really use a tight end. They got like
I know. So that's a good point. He has some plan with that tight end stuff going on. Maybe more 12 personnel, but history shows the ball goes to 2 guys.
So again, what's that tier? So you have Chase, Jefferson, Lamb,
and Lamb are all pretty. If you use your first 6 picks on, if you're picking the top 7 or whatever, you take one of those guys. Fine, I totally get it.
And then what was the order of that next group?
Nico, Neighbors, Amon-Ra, Puka. Like if you're picking late first around the turn, I think that's when you strongly consider those guys. But I would prefer a McCaffrey or a Genti or a Henry as my first pick, just because of the depth at receiver.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way. And I guess it doesn't matter if you could get a good back or something else you really like at the top of the second round. If you're late in round 1, I would almost always lean to the running back in that situation over that group, and then hope one of those guys in that group is still there for you in round 2.
Like I'd love to, I'm picking 11 and 14. If I can end up with Henry and Genti and not take Puka or St. Brown, I'm going to go that direction.
All right, a lot more names at wide receiver, including Matt's favorite area to target and some sleeper wide receivers for your fantasy drafts. Next. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Today, August 26th. Happy Future FanDuel Day. It's FanDuel Futures Day today, Tuesday, August 26th. So act fast. A brand new holiday for football fans who live for bold predictions and preseason hunches. For just 24 hours, FanDuel is giving you deals on NFL season predictions. So whether you're calling your MVP, eyeing a long shot division winner, or ready to crown a Super Bowl champ before week 1 even kicks off, this is your moment. You can take that flyer on the MVP race, maybe a dark horse division winner, or how about this? Parlay your division winner dark horses together for an even bigger payout. Visit FanDuel app today and start planning your futures bets now, because Futures Day is today, one day and one day only. FanDuel, play your game. We've got a little opportunity for our listeners, Matt. We have an important request here. Locked On wants to hear from you, so we've put together a survey to learn more about our listeners and make your favorite podcast even better. This is your chance to tell us what you like, what you don't, and answer questions about our advertising. Go to lockedonpodcast.com/survey to get started. Everyone who completes a survey will be entered for a chance to win one of 10 $100 Amazon gift cards. So again, that's lockedonpodcasts.com/survey. You can also find the link in the show notes. Thanks for helping us out. All right, here we go. We're getting the nitty gritty. This is where you have to pay up for a receiver, and this is the area where you don't want to pay up for, man.
Well, these next three, I'm kind of on the fence on that philosophy.
Okay.
Brian Thomas Jr., who was remarkable last year, and I do think the Jags offense is going to take a tick forward with the coaching change.
Let's pause there for a second, because I think maybe we can have this conversation together. Maybe we can just talk about Travis Hunter separately. But I would put Brian Thomas Jr. after what we saw in that group you just talked about of guys where I'm like, okay, I hope he's there for me too in the second round. But then how much you traded up to get a guy?
Yeah,
it's looking like Hunter's going to be offense first. How much of a target share is he going to take away? Is he the one to target because he could?
Hunter ends up on my team a ton.
Yeah, how much you have to pay for it versus what you're getting.
Yeah,
there's potential sophomore slumps. Is Trevor Lawrence and that Liam Cohen offense the offense you want to bet that there's going to be two fantasy stalwarts?
And they throw a ton of screens. If we watch the box, like just get it in Hunter's hands. Like for the price, I mean, if I'm picking between the two, I'm obviously taking Thomas, but for their cost, Hunter is the perfect example of I'm grabbing that guy in the 5th round or 6th round because he could blow up and be as good as Thomas, who's costing you a mid to early 2nd rounder.
Mm-hmm.
But these three I really like: Thomas, London, AJ Brown. I mean, those are like mid 2nd round guys, and I don't know if they're much off Puka at this point.
Which is like, and we're basically, you draft the wide receiver, or you draft the running back in round 1 because those guys are all there for you in round 2.
Mm-hmm. And that's fine. I just don't end up with them much, but I have no problem with that in mid to later 2nd round. I do think the Eagles will throw the ball a little more, and AJ Brown's just awesome.
Okay. It's kind of depends on how they fall in those tiers of wide receivers then for you.
Yeah.
And so the next group would be the group that you're kind of out on then.
Yeah, I mean, Ladd McConkey and T. Higgins are very expensive, and they don't end up on my team much. I understand the allure, but there's just a little too much questions for taking them over Brock Bowers or Trey McBride or Daniels or Hurts or Chase Brown, or you know what I mean? Like,
I'm with you. You have to pay for the ceiling.
Yeah,
you don't get the potential floor baked in.
Yeah. I mean, I like the players. They're just a little pricey for my taste. I think I have Mike Evans at 13, probably higher than anyone else. And I think a lot of that has to just do with wide receiver injuries around him. And I still think he's totally awesome, but he doesn't end up on my team very much.
Mm-hmm.
And then this next group is when it really starts to get hairy for the price. I could just have too many negatives for what they cost in the 3rd round for Smith-Njigba, Devontae Adams, Garrett Wilson, Marvin Harrison Jr., Tyreek Hill, DK Metcalf, Terry McLaurin. So like that 11 through 20 neighborhood is when I'm going somewhere else. They're fine. I mean, I don't hate them on my team. I'm not trading them in Dynasty or anything if you already have them. It's just they cost a lot, and they could go south on you a little bit, sideways.
I kind of like Smith-Njigba of that group just because like they have even less players to target. Like, who's going to take the targets away from a rookie, Torrey Horton, who might be a really good player, but you lose DK Metcalf in Seattle. There's going to be targets elsewhere. I think the short targets, they force him the ball, find way kind of in a CeeDee Lamb light kind of a way that they find ways to get him the football. He can get open short to intermediate. it does feel a little pricey where he's going, and I
Mhm.
like it better in the fourth and the third for sure. But I could see why Smith and Jigba could go crazy, especially
Yeah.
in our league.
And in that group, I have him a little higher than most.
Yeah.
Like most people have Tyreek over him, I think. And I think Tyreek might be going Antonio Brown crazy land and just could implode. Or maybe he turns up and ends up on the Chiefs and has a great year. I don't know, but someone else can have him.
I definitely don't want to plant my flag in the Dolphins. Not that or plant my flag in them being bad either. Like I just don't know what's going on with the Dolphins. I just want to kind of observe and not have stock in the Dolphins because they could go any direction, and I probably wouldn't be shocked.
And I'm higher on most on Waddle. This is that neighborhood that I love. So here's like the group that I'm ending up with usually 2 to 3 of these guys, and it's such a big group. Just bear with me for a minute. Pickens, Waddle, Travis Hunter, Ridley, Xavier Worthy, Tet McMillan, Devontae Smith, Chris Olave, Jamison Williams, Cortland Sutton, Zay Flowers. Like all those guys are pretty cheap, and most of them are like going to lead their team and have a lot of upside. And if I'm getting them in the 6th round after I have 5 other starters on my team, I'm real happy plugging them in my lineup. I mean, they're not going to be league winners, but the guys I draft ahead of them might win me the league.
There's some potential league winners there.
I
think a few names fascinate me, particularly players who had gone higher that had the promise of being even bigger time than where they're at here. And, because we're still talking about, starting caliber wide receivers. And
sure. Really good football players. Yeah.
But Chris Olave, is that ceiling still there for him? Like what even is he?
I know he goes so cheap though. I mean, I get him as like my 4th receiver sometimes.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. I'm saying,
I know.
Is that ceiling still there? Because if it is, you run to the podium with that pick.
I think so. I think he could even get traded. I mean, I don't know if that offense is going to be as hideous as everyone tends to think. Like the quarterback position is probably bad, but the O-line's good. Kamara, they have 3 receivers. They're going to be losing all the time. Prevent defenses late in games.
Bad offenses aren't a terrible thing because you're still behind in games and throwing the football a lot.
Right. And I think that'll happen to them all the time.
Yeah.
A lot of 4th quarter points for Olave. And people are afraid of his concussions. But like in my dynasty leagues, I traded for him super cheap in my rookie drafts left and right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm giving up like early 2nd round draft picks for Olave. I'm like, he's still great at football. And maybe, 2 years from now, we might not be talking about the concussions.
Kind of a similar question with Waddle too, because I think Waddle burned a lot of fantasy owners last year because he was in that 3rd round area.
Right.
And now he's in the 5th, 6th round area because, we trust him. Should we trust him again? Was it a weird 1-year blip? And again, it's that
He's only had 1 bad year.
Yeah.
That offense was goofy and
catching 100 balls his rookie year, right? He was like,
I know, right? Like, I'll take a risk on him.
Yeah. So,
yeah, he's going to be on my team a lot.
Really interesting group of names there. Did you name Pearsall?
No, but he's right behind those guys.
Okay. Yeah, because we talked off the air about Pearsall. I have Pearsall where you take him. I would have him in most of my leagues. I know the 49ers aren't a high volume offense, but and Pearsall's climbing the ranks. Pearsall was the 3rd. Pearsall was so cheap earlier on in fantasy leagues. It was the most obvious pick. Now he's climbing a little bit, but he still hasn't climbed to the point where he probably should because he's so far and ahead number 1 wide receiver in the 49ers offense going into week 1. Now he has to compete with the run game and McCaffrey and George Kittle too. But to have an offensive mind, like to have a good offensive coach and a good quarterback and be the number 1 wide receiver on a team, he's essentially free at this point.
Yeah, I have him 35. I mean, there's a couple guys after the ones I listed. DJ Moore isn't for me, but most people have him like way higher. So
I would draft Pearsall all day ahead of DJ Moore just because
I get that.
It's so clear what his role is going to be.
Yeah,
DJ Moore is a good player, but I just the Bears are almost like the Dolphins in a way where it's like I have no idea. I just want to watch and enjoy. It could go any old direction. I don't know who's going to lead in targets. You could talk me into Luther Bird, and he's probably going to be the guy that ends up on my teams just because he's talented and he's basically free.
That's basically how I ranked DJ Moore to the point where he'll never end up on my team at 32.
Right.
Like he's going 10 receiver spots higher than that, which I don't understand.
Yeah.
The guy I also have right next to Pearsall, though, is Stephon Diggs. I think he's another one that all reports are good. He's going to get a ton of targets. Sign me up. I mean, everyone thinks he's got this old man discount, injury discount. He was on pace for 1,000 yards before he got hurt with Houston when he was competing with Dell and Nico. He could be my third or fourth receiver all day long.
And you're big on this quarterback.
Absolutely. And I think they could be losing a lot late in games. And, he's definitely going to be their target leader. I mean, it's not even going to be close, in my opinion. They give him good money, and all reports are strong.
Is that the end of your golden zone of guys you're really targeting a lot in fantasy leagues?
Yeah. Some other names in there. Igbuka keeps moving up left and right. He's right behind Pearsall. For the price, I know we just talked about the Bears, but I still have a lot of interest in Rome Odunze as my 36th receiver. Josh Downs is 39. I don't love their quarterback situation, but I love the player. So I'm definitely still dipping my toes in those waters.
I'm really surprised Rome Odunze going into year 2 is being drafted in the same spot he was drafted last year.
Yeah, we don't know any more or less.
I have a keeper league where you can keep somebody you drafted 3 rounds earlier than you took them the year before. Okay. And I took Rome Odunze, and I think round 7, round 8 turn. And I was like, well, he's clearly going to be my keeper next year. Target him on purpose in that spot. I'm like, I'm not
he's still worth the same
4th round pick on him. I could just draft him the same spot I drafted him last year. So he ended up not being my keeper. And I think the other guy was Smith and Jigba, who now it's like 3rd round. Well, I could just draft him in there anyways. It wasn't really worth keeping either in that spot.
There wasn't value for you.
Even though, but I thought for sure it was going to be Rome Odunze. It's like, no, not worth it.
Interesting. Yeah, I've been shying away from the Bears too, including both tight ends. It's just a lot of mouths to feed, a lot of issues. But I mean, for the price, Odunze or Burden very late in the draft has some interest to me.
I mean, Burden's. We'll talk about. Let's pause on that. Where Burden is, where some other sleepers are, and some potential big time values. Maybe even the terms thrown around too often. League winners potentially in Matt Williamson's wide receiver rankings. Next. Talking fantasy today, and you can get involved in a fantasy league right now at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl, and you don't even have to know anybody. Jump into a public team, a public league anytime you want. NFL season almost here. You can feel the buzz. Fantasy football season upon us. Everyone's researching, getting their drafts in this week, and building their championship squad. So if you haven't joined a league yet, now's the time, and it's happening on Yahoo Fantasy. And this year, I'm playing Yahoo Fantasy Football. Matt's playing Yahoo Fantasy. And you should too, whether you're a first-timer or a veteran, creating your millionth league. So with the season kicking off next Thursday, now is the time to start playing Yahoo Fantasy Football, which offers so many fun ways to compete. You want more ways to play? Try the brand new Yahoo Fantasy Guillotine League mode. I'm already in one, and I'm excited about that mode. You want to play instantly with friends? Try the new Draft with Friends mode, or if you prefer the classics, you still could get the crew together, head-to-head, private leagues, no crew, no problem. Join a public league right now, the easiest way to play. NFL season kicks off September 4th, so don't wait. Start your league now. Draft at yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. That's yahoofantasy.com/lockedonnfl. All right, so where are we at? What tier are we at? And who are your favorites here? We're not going to name every name on the list here. We don't have a long enough podcast for that. But we are in wide receiver 30-something zone, right? So this is where you're picking your 3rd wide receiver on your fantasy team.
Yeah, we're getting into like the 40s. And by this time, I pretty much have 3 because I'd like the last 3 rounds, I just hit wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver, wide receiver. Right. I took Hunter, Waddle, and Pickens or something. You know what I mean?
If you got one earlier, maybe you have 4 already.
Yes. Yeah. So I don't have as many sleepers. I mean, after I have my 3 or 4 core guys that I trust, then I go back to like the Drake Mays or my tight ends I like that are cheap if I waited, or some backup handcuff running back. But I do think because I often have 3 or 4 guys that I can trust that I can start for the next coming weeks, that I've kind of broken some of my rules and gone after guys that have big glaring problems at the moment, like Jordan Addison, Khalil Shakir, Darnell Mooney, Godwin, Ayuk, Pittman. Like I can't start them for weeks, but I don't need to. And they might be regular starters by week 6 or 7 or.
Yeah, some of these stash guys. This is a good time to jump in on that. And if someone like Ayuk, you can draft him here, put him in your IR spot, and
especially if you're an IR spot,
then pick up one of those sleepers that we talk about here in a minute. Add him to your roster for now, and then you kind of got dual kind of draft and develop,
waiting in the wings,
wait and watch and see where it's at, and see what happens with Ayuk, see what happens with the wide receiver position, the guy you're developing, and you can earn an extra spot there. I always like to have that one extra guy that I get that extra roster spot, or just not draft a kicker and then you put the guy on IR and you pick up a kicker after the draft or something like that. But
good move. Yeah.
You feel like a real GM. You get to make a roster move immediately after your draft.
Like, I don't love Jordan Addison, but he's so cheap right now because he's suspended a couple weeks, but I'm not going to start him those couple weeks. So I already drafted my starters,
Right. Yeah, no brainer. I love those guys in this area of the draft for sure. Well, what is your official rankings here when we get to number 40? And where do you have the Raiders wide receivers? We'll talk a little bit more about a lot of the roster moves that are happening in these couple of days here around roster cutdown day. So we're saving the Amari Cooper stuff, but signing a 1-year deal with the Raiders, and then you have the Raiders potentially trading a wide receiver, right? And so what do you do with those guys?
That's a tough one. So starting at 40 is Jacoby Myers, coincidentally, and I haven't moved them. I'm just going to sit on that for a couple days and let it marinate. Then I go to like Jawan Jennings, Debo, Golden and Reed with the Packers, and then I get into like Addison, Shakir, Mooney, Raheem Shaheed. I've stuck Amari Cooper at 49 in this neighborhood, and then some other names I've mentioned like Godwin, Pittman, Ayuk. And then after those guys, there's 2 dudes I like that I know aren't going to win me my league. They're just better football players than people realize, is Rashad Bateman and Cedric Tillman. They're going to end up on my team a lot as like my 5th receiver.
Your last receiver, and if things don't go well for a couple of weeks, you filter out for somebody else that's on the waiver wire.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot to pick from.
Let's talk about a couple of rookies then. One is with the 2 teams we've talked about here recently with the Bears and the Raiders. Where you at on Luther Burden, and what about Deontay Thornton, who seems to have a rapport immediately and now potentially a bigger share of the offense than you would have thought for sort of a raw one-dimensional rookie, and he's running with Geno Smith's unit. Geno Smith's looking at him a lot and trusting him with like not only just like, okay, let's chuck one deep here in a preseason game, throwing him back shoulders, and it looks like an interesting development there with the Raiders.
So you're not catching me at a great time on this. I have Burden at 64, Thornton at 65. And both need to probably go up. Like, I have them behind like Keenan Allen and Jaden Higgins and Cooper Kupp that I'm not really investing in. So I'm interested in both for sure. And this really smart fantasy people will tell you, especially in like home leagues, rookie wide receivers late often pay off at their ADP at a really high rate. Maybe it takes 4 or 5 weeks. But it wouldn't shock me at all if Burden or Thornton is a startable wide receiver by Halloween,
Do you pair, like, say, Jordan Addison, and then you throw him on your IR suspension list and you gain a roster spot? Do you pair that with like a Cooper Kupp, who might be awesome for 3 weeks before he gets hurt?
I've avoided like the Christian Kirks and Cooper Kupps and Marquise Browns and Romeo Doubs. I mean, like, they're all fine. They've all been startable. It's just I don't see any upside to any of them. I'd rather roll the dice with somebody either ahead of them or Burden after them. You know what I mean? Or even Pat Bryant after them, or Mims or somebody like that.
See, I'm glad you brought those 2 names up because that was another team I wanted to ask you about. I'm kind of avoiding the Broncos because I'm not sure enough in Cortland Sutton being just the guy to spend on what you have to spend to get him, even though I understand he's ranked where he is and he should be ranked there. But I don't have enough confidence in who the other guy would be either to spend anything on Bryant or Mims or who's the other, the Oregon receiver?
Franklin,
right.
Yeah.
I have no idea what to expect there. So maybe you take a flyer on a guy or you just kind of watch list him.
They seem like watch list guys to me. Like, one of those guys got 7 targets in week 1. Like, they have a plan for him. Maybe I should scoop him up now, even if they had 50 yards. Pat Bryant or whoever,
The fact that they traded Devon Vele too tells me that they have a plan. They like those guys, but what is it? Probably Franklin's not going to be a high volume player, Bryant is probably the interesting one, and maybe put him in that group with Thornton and Luther Burden, and maybe even a little higher, because if you're that big slot slant boy power player close to the quarterback for Sean Payton's offense, you probably want that player.
So this is called a tease in the podcast radio world, but I heard a beat reporter from Denver recently saying that he thought the Vele trade has a lot to do with unleashing Evan Ingram.
Oh, so that's the Marcus Colston.
That's the big slot, right? And because they have not used him hardly at all in the preseason, like they're keeping him in bubble wrap, they're not showing that hand. Then Ingram keeps falling in fantasy drafts too, because no one really knows what to do with them. But I think they might have that plan with them. But I'm kind of with you on Denver. Like, they're not going to be a super high passing volume team to begin with. Sutton's going to get his, and that's a lot of mouths to feed. And they always throw to backs too. I mean, that's a Sean Payton thing too. Like, who? I'm not sure if anyone can be fantasy relevant. I mean, who's going to step up?
Ingram, RJ Harvey, the next Alvin Kamara. Let's talk about it. Tight ends and running backs to come this week as we finish up our final, or Matt Williamson's final pre-draft 2025 fantasy football rankings. Let us know what you think. Who are your favorite sleepers? Get those questions in for this week's mailbag, and tomorrow we'll cover all the transactions happening around cut down day and the usually furious 24 hours that follows right here. Peacock and Williamson.